Have you heard the news? It's getting lots of rave reviews. A good time is waiting just for you at Sister Spokesman.
The Minnesota Homeownership Center as well. They fight for the funding that we need to provide services to all of you. So I don't want that to go unnoticed. You're so modest. All right, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Model Cities. Model Cities has been in St. Paul since 1967. We started as providing healthcare services, and that was under the leadership of the late Timothy Van, a black African-American woman. She turned the reins over to Dr. Beverly Hawkins, and also after providing the health care and spinning that off to Open Cities in St. Paul, we were able to respond to other emerging needs in the community. And today we continue those. Coaching with youth on probation, crisis intervention, housing and case management with people who are formerly homeless. Many supportive housing and affordable housing programs, and just a few years ago we opened a homeless shelter. Today, and when Dr. Bev Hawkins was there in 2027, we were so pleased to be able to move into the new brownstone building at the corner of University and Victoria in St. Paul. And there we provide another 34 affordable housing units, almost doubling our affordable housing before. Ground floor commercial space, offices for Model Cities, and what we call the reading room, which shares history of the Summit University neighborhood. Today, Model Cities is run by another black female, Kizzy Downey. She is our CEO, and our director, Makisha Hall, who is our boss. And what we do, I'm going to talk about in just a minute. I want to encourage you, though, to visit Ebony over at our table. We have a special offer today. If any of you desire to do the home stretch class, I think we might have a few of those at no cost to you today. They're usually $40. There are classes coming up, and believe it or not, we have learned one thing. During the week, we may not be able to have you access a home stretch class because maybe you're working or you're dealing with your own schedules. But we offer those classes now on Saturday and Sunday. So come and see us. All right, pre-purchase counseling, one-on-one. Here's what we do. We work with you where you are. We build your trust, which is very important. It becomes a good working relationship. We work with you on credit, household budgeting, savings, and no matter how long it may take you, we can do one-on-one with you up to 3 years. Not everybody needs that amount of time. It could be 3 months or 3 years if you need it. Our typical client might be someone who along the way during COVID lost their job, got behind on bills, may have a couple collections, that type of thing. It could also be someone who is 3 months from purchasing, maybe already talked to Trent, Kim, but they just need to boost their score, knowing the higher the score, the better the interest rate. So we are there to assist at no charge to you. Lately, we have been seeing individuals who are tired of being charged $1,500, $1,600, up to $1,800 a month for rent, when that could be your own investment in your home. We talked about the home stretch workshops. It is an 8-hour class. You do get a break for lunch. And that provides you with a fantastic overview of the entire mortgage lending process. We have professionals there like Trent, like Kim, who talk about their role in this whole home buying process, in addition to our own facilitators. Again, that is available, the certificate Julie touched on, home buying assistance, down payment assistance. With your certificate, that gives you access to down payment assistance that is available to all of you. Lastly, we provide a financial education course called Fiscally Fit. That grew out of a partnership with Camphor United Methodist Church in St. Paul and Model Cities. We teach credit, budgeting, the same type of course topics that we do one-on-one with. We do that in partnership with Ramsey County, some of the schools, other nonprofits to provide that class. Some of those then come to our pre-purchase counseling. So if there were 2 things that I wanted to leave with you, if you're working on your credit, you want to increase your score, just 2 things. Keep your balance on your credit cards to 30% of the limit. That'll help accelerate your scores. In addition, if you think you're not going to remember to make that minimum payment on your credit cards, put it on auto pay. If you miss 1 payment, that could drop your score 40 points. You don't want that headache. So put it on auto pay so that the minimum payment is taken care of. You can go back and make additional payments. All right, that is it for me. I look forward to anyone who wants to come and start their home ownership journey with Model Cities, myself, Ebony Williams, and Jeff Wills. We are there and ready to help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you. And now we have Mr. Bowman, Trent Bowman. He's the Vice President of Community Impact Manager, and he's with Bremer Bank. Trent has been in this community for 20 years. He's got over 20 years. He's got 20 years of experience, including working to bridge the community lending gap at multiple Twin City banks and mortgage brokerage. His emphasis is on first-time home buyers and the supporting programs that help them better understand the home buying process along with the responsibilities that go with being a homeowner. Let's welcome Trent.
Thank you, and thank you, Tracy, for having me here. And once again, a shout out to the Minnesota Homeownership Center for sponsoring. Homeownership is dear to my heart, and actually, I'm a resident of North Minneapolis. So, I've been a part of North Minneapolis since I was born. So, grew up on 1519 Emerson Avenue North. So we have. And being in this business and being in the role that I'm in, and previous to this role, I was a loan officer for about 15 years. And I went through the challenges of 2008 with the mortgage fall, all the different products and programs, the unique quote-unquote products that they generated for black people, and it didn't work. Just keep it real, it didn't work. And one of the reasons why it didn't work is because we were trying to put people in homes with marginal credit. Now, Linda and Kim and anyone who knows me and knows what my crusade is, I am speaking on high credit scores now, VIP status. Now, let me be very clear. I'm not saying you can't get a loan with a 640 credit score or a 620 credit score, but what I am saying is your chances, your opportunities are much greater when we strive for the higher credit scores. And that's one of the things that I love about the messaging that Model Cities is doing, and some of the other nonprofit organizations that teach the first-time home stretch. So what are the challenges, that folks in this room may be seeking when it comes to home ownership? There's, in my opinion, there's three challenges: job stability, income, credit, and assets. Okay. When we have challenging credit, what's the first thing we have to do as individuals is we have to change our behavior. We want to shop, we want to be consumers, and this is something you can Google yourself. If you look at the consumer spending patterns in the Black community, we're in the billions of dollars.
Yes.
So let's equate that to savings. So if we're buying all the time, we look good, we got all the nice gear, and no disrespect to the vendors here, but the merchandise that they have is very reasonable and respectable. But if we're spending all of our funds, or we're charging it, what's going up? Our balances. So now our utilization for our credit is no longer at 30%. We're at 60, 70, 80, and sometimes 90%. Then what we end up doing is we end up robbing Peter to save Paul, because now we start accessing new credit to make up for the credit that we already have. And then we get caught in the credit trap where you get the letter from one of the creditors, hey, 0% interest. That's zero. It's looking at us, waving at us, hey. And then we say, oh, well, maybe I'll transfer this balance over to this 0% balance. But do I stop using the credit card that has the 18% or interest rate? No, we keep using it. And then we con ourselves at the 0%, I'll pay this off in 12 months, because we barely read the fine print because it says 0% for 12 months. But then that minimum payment's looking at us, right? And I'm giving you my own personal experience because I did this. I was a knucklehead. So I'm looking at it and I'm saying, oh, $50. Oh, that's all I got. Well, I know I said I was going to do $250 because I bought that $1,000 suit that I really didn't need. But I'm going to go ahead and pay this $50 and keep it moving. And then I'm going to feel good about myself. But then I'm at the club, kicking it. Yeah, trying to be big man. Kim, what you drinking? What you drinking? Using what? Credit card.
Yeah.
So that's one of the challenges that are hindering us from being homeowners, because it has a huge impact on our debt to income ratio. And I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail on the debt to income ratio. So how does that equate to our savings, assets, liquid? 9 times out of 10, when I'm doing a consultation with an individual that is looking to purchase a home, if they tell me their credit score is 590, 600, so then when I ask, what does your asset position look like for checking or savings, liquid? It's usually pretty low. It's usually pretty low because, the money that we're getting, we can't save because we're paying off what? Debt. Credit card debt. So one of the things that's one of the 3 things is, we're spending more on unnecessary spending. So you got necessary spending and unnecessary spending. And the other challenge I would challenge all of you to do is do an audit on yourselves. Go through your debit cards, go through your credit cards, highlight some of the things that we spend money on unnecessarily. Necessary, gotta pay your rent, that's necessary. You got a car payment, gotta pay it because you gotta get from point A to point B, necessary. You gotta pay your gas bill, light bill, necessary. Unnecessary, coffee. How many of us are going to Starbucks or Caribou daily?
Multiple times.
Multiple times, $8 to $10 a pop, unnecessary. Going out, unnecessary. Again, you gotta highlight what we're spending unnecessary money on and then start trimming back, set yourself up a budget, a goal, and keep it simple. Keep it simple, because setting a goal is not to punish you. Setting a goal is to help you, and every victory is important. So to just kind of take a step back again, just to reiterate the three things that I see in the African American community when it comes to home ownership: job stability, maintaining the employment, get promoted. There's nothing wrong with staying on your job for 10, 15 years. I'll share a quick story with you. When I was younger, I was, getting jobs, and I was working at a job for 5 or 6 months. I was working at another job for 3 or 4 months. And then, my mom was like, why do you keep quitting jobs? So I said, because it's going to help my resume. No, it's not, you idiot. Best advice ever given to me. Because I got a job at Dayton Hudson, and I worked there for 9 years, and I grew, and I got promoted, and I worked in other departments, and me being there for 9 years catapulted me into what I'm doing today. Job stability, assets. We gotta be able to put money away. We gotta start saving. We gotta take the consumer spending from billions and billions of dollars, and let's bring it down. Because if we do that, our savings is gonna go up. Control the unnecessary spending. When someone comes to me and I do a consultation with them, see, in my opinion, I'll never say anyone has bad credit. I don't believe in people having bad credit. We just have challenging credit. And we just gotta figure out a way to fix it. And only we as individuals can fix it, because there is nobody gonna knock on your door. Who is it? Some money. I'm gonna help you pay your bills. It's not gonna happen. Who put our credit in a challenging position? I did. Who's gonna correct it? I am. But one account at a time. Then I think we get overwhelmed and we say, well, I've got so much, forget it, I'm just gonna give up, I'm never gonna be a homeowner. No, we cannot have the defeated mentality. One account at a time, that's victory. Small victories. And then the next thing you know, your scores go from 580 to 620, 620 to 660, 660 to 700, 700 to 750, and now you're VIP. Hello. Walk the red carpet when it comes to credit. Give the bank a reason to say yes. Don't give the bank a reason at chance. That's why I always tell people, it's never a fast no, it's always a slow yes. Take advantage of the programs that are being created for you. First-time home buying products. When you have stronger credit scores, you have all the options. I like to call it the smorgasbord of products. We've all gone to all you can eat, right? Let me get some of them ribs. You got shrimp? You got shrimp? Okay. Chicken? Oh, don't say chicken now. That's my weakness, because I love me some chicken wings. But when it comes to products, I want you to have that same mentality. So when you walk into the bank, when you got that VIP credit, and that loan officer says, oh, you know what, Mr. Johnson, we pre-approved you for FHA. Now you have the power to push back and say, whoa, wait a minute now here. I got 760 credit scores, and you're only gonna give me an FHA pre-approval? What else do you have? Do you have a conventional portfolio product with no mortgage insurance? Calculate the mortgage insurance from a home-ready product to a home possible product. And tell me what the MI is on those products with this 760 credit score. Because when you put me in FHA, you marginalized me. You're not working for me. And that's what you're supposed to do. I'm trying to build a better stat for myself, and you, the loan officer, you just want to lump me into one product. Have that power, my friends. Because when you have that power, it goes a long ways. Now you got that loan officer's attention. There's nothing that loan officer won't do for you. Build the relationships with these banks. Because I'm here to tell you, banks want to give you money. But we got to give them a reason to say yes. and not a reason to marginalize you and say no. Take advantage of the first-time, the down payment assistance programs that are out there. But be careful of these down payment assistance programs, because remember this, if you hear anything I say, the more down payment assistance was created to help you buy the home you can afford. Maintaining lifestyle, that's another big one that we're seeing in the community. I don't want to live over there. I don't want to live in that neighborhood. So I always push back a little bit when I hear that. So I always would say something like this. I'd say, well, you've been renting in North Minneapolis for 20 years, right? Yeah. Kids go to high school? Yeah. Where'd they go? North? Yeah. They graduate? Yeah. Has a cop ever knocked on your door the whole 20 years you lived there? No. Anybody ever get shot on your block? No. So you rented in this neighborhood for 20 years and you helped somebody else get rich, but now you have the opportunity to build wealth within the same community, but you want to run out to Apple Valley or Egan or Mendota Heights. Just doesn't make sense to me. You have an opportunity to rebuild this community right here in our backyard. Why can't we do it? But if we keep putting out the negative narrative about this community, next thing you know, this community is not going to look like you or I. So take advantage of the down payment assistance. Get what you need to afford your home, to maintain your home, maintain your lifestyle. Buying a home should not be a punishment. Buying a home should not put you in more debt. Buying a home should be a way of building wealth, generational wealth within your family structure. And then protect yourself with that wealth that you are creating by buying that home. Have insurance on that home. Have insurance on yourself. Have a policy to protect yourself. Too many times we talk about wealth, generational wealth, and we always talk about it from just an equity standpoint, but there's other ways of wealth within our family and within our community. And the last thing I'll say, I think I may have touched on everything, I think, here. Yeah, I think I did, so thank you for your time.
And absolutely, Linda and Trent both, they talk about, we're talking about your interest rates being where you want them to be, but realizing that if you got a credit card and you're paying it late, you're damaging the possibility of having that interest rate where you want it to be. Because every time you even pay it late, your credit is in a bad place. So I know my daughter used to say, oh Mom, I can pay my bills, I just, pay them whenever I get around to it, but I'll pay it before the end of the month. And I had to remind her of the damage that she was doing by doing that. I'm like, you got the money to pay it, but yet you're going to pay it whenever. Do you realize that this is what's happening to your credit? And I started sitting down. So now she pays everything on time. I think sometimes we just forget that these things have such an impact on us. So we got to make sure that we got to, like Trent said, make it so that you get a slow yes instead of a fast no. So we got to keep our credit where it wants to be, and that's by setting ourselves up. When we think about home ownership, let's talk about getting ready and what do we need to do to get ready. So we're going to hear about more on that from Kim Smith Moore. She's a realtor and an owner of Promise Realty. Mrs. Smith Moore is a licensed real estate agent and broker with more than 20 years of experience in the real estate and mortgage industry. Over many years with Wells Fargo, she successfully managed the Neighborhood Live program, which helped to create more than 20 new homeowners. 20,000 new homeowners. Let's go from 20 to 20,000. How you like that? and she presently serves as the president of, is it NAREB, Twin Cities?
Chairperson.
Okay, the chairperson. Okay, so let's welcome Kim.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to start by, Tracy, thank you very much, and Sister Spokesman for having this event. I definitely want to say thank you to our sponsors, Minnesota Homeownership Center. I have been a part of Minnesota Homeownership Center for about a year, and really, had a lot of great experiences there. I've worked in the corporate world for many years, over 20-something years, and have been doing real estate. But, you know, I was born and raised here in Minnesota, so I think what Trent said, he talked about this community, and this community is very near and dear to me. And so, you know, you remember back in the day, you know, when it was a lot of black folks, right, in the community, and then you kind of seen the transition, how it changed. It was black folks and home ownership. They own their properties, they own their homes, and then what happened is you had a lot of renters, a lot of landlords came in, and before you knew it, almost 80-something% of the houses in North Minneapolis were rental properties. So it was kind of like, where did all the home ownership go? You know, I mean, if you even look at home ownership rates, I mean, they're the lowest that they've been since the 60s, right? And so we have to do something about that as a community, and building our community and investing in our community. I think that's extremely important. You asked about NARAB, and it's the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. It's black real estate professionals, and they come from all over. They come from real estate, mortgage business. Trent actually was president a couple years ago. But, you know, insurance, what am I missing? Mortgage brokers, insurance, anything you name it.
Yeah.
It's a wealth of information, and we're like a community, right? And it's important to have that, because I was just talking with one of the members the other day, and he was having a problem closing with the title company, right? And he called someone in the network, right, that was a title company, and was able to get the deal done, right? And so that's how we work together. I refer stuff to Trent, right, and also to Linda, but, you know, so we work closely together. We're all a part of the NARAB organization, so I would definitely look that up. And I'm going to give you a little bit of history on NARAB, because the National Association of Real Estate Brokers was started back in 1947, and it was the time when segregation was out there, right? And so what was happening back then is they would not allow black realtors to be a part of the National Association of Realtors. So what did the black realtors do? They do what they always do. What do? We do our thing. They created the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, and then continued to, and it continues to be today. So I think that's an important history lesson, because, and I was sold on it. So it's an organization, we work together, and it's all about building wealth for black families, building wealth and equity. And that's why I'm here today. That's why I do what I do. I've been doing it for a long time. I remember back in the day, we used to work for, was it Prudential? Prudential Home Mortgage, right? And so, you know, it's always been about servanthood. I'm a strong believer in that. I think you have to serve others, and I think you have to give people the right tools and resources, right? Because if they don't have the right tools and resources, they can't do anything. If I wanted to, this is going in and out, so can you hear me?
Yeah.
Because if I wanted to build a house and I didn't have a hammer or a nail, I wouldn't be too good doing it, would I? And that's the same with home ownership. If you don't have the right tools and resources, and I'll tell you, the advisors, the housing advisors, you know, you got your model cities, you got your other organizations, that's your go-to. Those are your subject matter experts that can tell you what's out there, what programs are available. In addition, they tell you what you qualify for and if you qualify. And if I have customers that come to me and they know that, oh, Kim, my credit's bad, and, you know, I'm like, okay, I'll work with you, but I'm going to send you to a Linda. I'm going to send you to an organization that can pull your credit, and pull your credit where it's not going to affect your score. Right. Because if you're out there lender shopping, any lender that you go to get credit, they're going to pull your credit, and your credit score is going to go down. It's going to start going down. I had a client the other day. He came to me. Somebody sent him to me, and I found out that he had been out lender shopping. He had shopped with like 4 other lenders, and I was like, oh my goodness, your credit score, it just kept going down. And I had to say, hold tight, stop, just stop. I'm going to send you to a counseling agency, right? So they can do a soft pull and exactly see where you're at, right? And see where you're at and position you. I love what you sent, Trent, about positioning you for the best interest rate that you can get. because they have something, the mortgage companies out there, they call it risk-based pricing, and they're going to price you on the risk. And the lower credit score that you have, right? The lower credit score, the higher the interest rate's going to be, right? So it's good to work with an advisor to give you the tools and tips that you need. Linda already gave you some tips on working on getting that credit score, paying it off, right? But they'll give you the tips that you need to get that score up as high as you can, right? Because if you get it as high as you can get the best interest rate. And that interest rate's going to affect your monthly payment, right?
Yep.
So those are some key things that are important. I would
And
say,
mortgage insurance too.
and mortgage insurance too, right? Because if you don't have that 20% down, you're going to be paying mortgage insurance, and that's going to be pretty high, right? And that doesn't go away until you get 20% equity in the property. So those are some important tips. But, as a real estate agent, I tell people, what do you look for when you're choosing a real estate agent? Well, I say you interview them like you're interviewing them for a job, right? They're working for you, right? So you sit down and you have a conversation with them, right? And ask how they can support you, what they can provide for you, how they can help you to achieve home ownership. And it's a relationship. And they need to be a trusted resource. You need to trust the person that you're working with as a realtor. And I would also add to that, you need to build a team around you, a team to help you move forward, right? There's customers that I'll refer to Trent, right? Customers that I've actually referred to Linda, the housing counseling agencies, and we all work together. We all work together to ultimately what the goal is to get you into a home. And we all work together to do that, and that's important to have a team around you that's going to be looking out for your best interest. I think that's very important. One thing that people ask me is, I'm sure you guys hear about it, is now the time to buy a house, right? The interest rates are high, they keep going up. I mean, we were talking record low rates, 2.5%. People are sitting on those rates, right? But the rates right now are up in the close to 8%. I've seen some higher, right? And it's kind of like, well, I got people that are on the fence, right? People that are on the fence, and they're like, no, I'm not going to buy now. I'll give you a good example. My brother. My brother was going to buy a house 2 years ago, and we were getting ready to write the contract, and he froze. He basically said, no, Kim, I can't do this. I'm not going to buy it. And we went through everything out, and I'm like, okay, fine, because if you say you're not going to buy it, I'm not going to push nobody into buying a house. It's either for you or not for you. We'll keep looking. But he decided against it, and he didn't want to go look at any other places. He just decided at that moment he was not going to look. Earlier this year, that same house went back on the market, and it was priced $20,000 more than it was when he was looking to buy it, and he just shook his head. That shows you, and that's just an example, but that shows you how equity is built in. If he would have bought that home back a couple years ago, he would have been able to take advantage of that $20,000 equity, right? And could have used that, right? That equity to get down his private mortgage insurance, right? Because you got to have at least 20% down into the home, or he could have used it for something else, right? People don't realize that that's the way that the money's spent. Money happens in the world, right? People purchase properties, accumulate equity, and they use that equity to start businesses for their families, for their children, send their children or their grandchildren to school, start businesses. That's how money works in the community. So I just wanted to share that. So, I definitely would say find a good agent, and you know the right one when you come across them. It's not somebody just can't call me and say, just start showing me homes. I'm going to work with you. I'm going to sit down and meet with you. We're going to have a conversation. I want to get to know you. Because I'm not just, there's agents that are out there that are just down for the money, right? That just, okay, I'll show you a house. Okay, you want to write a contract? No, we're going to work with you. We're going to see where you're at. We're going to see what your needs are. I'm going to make sure that we're a good fit, that we work together. And then, we're going to say, okay, do you qualify? Because, of course, as agents, we can't be driving everybody around and we don't know if they qualify for nothing, because people will be running your raggage, taking you everywhere. But those are just common sense things that, that's important, right? If you don't have, I work with a lot of people that aren't ready. And you know what? I'm okay with that. That's okay. Let's work with you till you get ready. And I'm in it for the long haul. You know, find an agent that's in it for the long haul with you and that's going to work with you. And it's going to just, you know, if you have questions about real estate, that they're there to answer your questions, right? Or what do I do? What's the next step? Like I told you, a lot of people that aren't ready, I'm not a housing counselor, so I'm going to send you to a housing counselor that's a subject matter expert that's going to be able to look at your situation the way it is and give you the tools and tips to get there. And they're going to work with you to get you there, to get you mortgage ready. That's where you have the Trents, right, the mortgage companies that are going to look for the best product. Also, too, the housing counselors are going to tell you about the products that are out there in the mortgage companies that are offering those products. And they're going to refer you to give you the best deal, to get you the most for your dollars. And I think that's important, and I'll just close with, it's important that we work together. It's important that we work to build wealth and equity in our black communities and for our families. I think that's extremely important, so that's why I do what I do.
So Kim, let me start with you with the questions, and certainly we're going to open it up for everybody that has additional questions here. But Kim, you talk about being a realtor and people choosing the right one. What happens if you choose the wrong one? And I mean, can you have more than two at one time, or how does that work?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. You know, usually there's a buyer's representation agreement that is signed between you and the real estate agent, and I think that's an important agreement. Some agents don't use them. I know Edina's over there. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? I think it's important that you build a rapport, you build a trust, right? And that means that they're going to work with you, right? They're going to work with you. They're not going to go out shopping around, but you know, some folks do anyway, even if they sign that agreement. But it's a mutual agreement between the two of you, and that you're working for them. Because you know, as an agent, I don't get paid until you purchase a property, right? There's some stipulations. You can write agreements, those agreements that even $500 or whatever, something that's showing the properties or whatever, you can work something out. But I don't do that. I'm basically, okay, I get paid when I find a house for you. But I would just find the right agent. I wouldn't shop around. I would find the right agent, and if you work with an agent and you figure out that they're not the right ones, just part ways. And that's okay to do. That's okay. If they're not working for you, because you're going to be paying them at the end, if they don't have your best interest and you're feeling like you're not a priority, they say fire them, I believe.
All right. So what is the impact on a higher interest rate on the mortgage amount a buyer might qualify for?
You want to take that, Trent?
Is that Trent? I think
that means. So what is the impact of a higher interest rate on the mortgage amount? Well, a higher interest rate is going to give you a higher payment.
That's kind of what I was talking about. Yeah.
So this is why because where the rates are at right now, and we've been doing this thing for a long time. When I got in this business years ago, rates were at 8%. So really 8% is really not a high rate. Now, if you go back to 1980, 1981, 78, rates were 16, 17%. Yeah. But because everybody thinks because the rates are higher, then that's going to make my payment higher. But this should make you buy the house you can afford to keep you within your structure of affordability. That's one of the things I always try to tell people. We got spoiled for the last 5-6 years, rates at 2.75, 3%, etc. And really, it basically, people bought more homes than what they really could afford because the rates were so low. Now that the rates are kind of, at that 7.5% to 8%, this should really, as a consumer and as a home buyer, should really get you to be more disciplined to say, if my rent is $1,500, how much of a house can I buy to keep my mortgage payment from a principal, interest, taxes, and insurance to $1,500? Or, you gotta have to give yourself a little wiggle room, say, what is my comfort zone? What's my comfort level? If I'm paying $1,500 in rent right now, then I can go to $1,700, but then how does that look? How does life look? How are you maintaining? Because one of the things we all have to remember, when you sign that mortgage and that note, you are going to inherit house debt. So the things that the landlord pays for, you got to pay for. So don't let the high rate be a discouragement of purchasing, but let the higher rate be more of a discipline for you to buy the house you can afford.
And like what Trent was saying, what the landlord once was paying, that's when your house has a water leak or anything major, you now have to pay that. So you always want to make sure that that's money that you put in the bank in times of need.
Yeah. Let me just piggyback on what Trent said, because now with the interest rates high, now really, if you think about it, is now really a good time to buy. And I'm going to tell you why. Because you don't have that competition. You don't, previously, when rates were really low, you had multiple offers on properties. You had people that a property would be on the market, it would be only on the market for one day. Back in about a couple years ago, when the rates were really low, I listed one of my house on the market. It didn't even stay on the market for 24 hours. I had the open house, and before the open house closed, it ended, I had a phone call to buy the house, and it was overpriced. They priced it over the sales price, right? Yeah. But now, with rates being high, you don't have that competition out there. So you have a little more time to purchase, to look, right? And I'll say there's not a whole lot of inventory, right? Not a lot of inventory, so you don't have the inventory, so you gotta get that agent, right, to show you them properties as soon as they come on the market. That's very important, right? And then, you know, you don't have all that competition, right? So I think, you know, people ask, when is a good time to buy a house? Now, really? You know, you gotta deal with the interest rates, right? But, I mean, how people are dealing with that is they're thinking that they'll buy now, right? And then what are they gonna do, Trent? They're gonna refinance.
Finance later.
Some people are looking at a lower interest rate, an adjustable interest rate. You know, I have my opinions on that, because, you know, you never know what the market's gonna do, so I don't sway anybody into that. But, you know, it's like what comes up does come down eventually.
Exactly.
Linda, do you want to say?
So Linda, how does the down payment assistance work, and can you use more than one down payment assistance source?
That's a really good question, and you definitely have to check with the mortgage lender to make sure they will allow layering. So you get down payment assistance from one source, but then over here, you have another source that is willing to give you down payment assistance, and the mortgage lender is okay with it. So that is definitely a mortgage lender question. Now, in terms of what down payment assistance is out there, your advisors, counselors, will be aware of which ones are out there. So will the mortgage lender, so will the real estate agent as well. So some of the down payment assistance come off as second mortgages. Some are forgivable, and you have to be careful about that too. You may have an additional payment. So do your research, do your homework, and make sure you know what it is the down payment assistance requirements are once you seek to use them to lower the purchase price of your home so your mortgage is less.
So when you talk about doing your homework, is there a place I can go if I don't know where to do my homework? I mean, is there model cities, are they helping me with that homework?
Model Cities does have access to the Minnesota Homeownership Center, keeps up to date on the down payment assistance that programs are out there. So we utilize our partner portal to find out what is out there, and we are able to share those links to those individual sources with our the people that we are working with. So there are resources out there to find out at any given time, and that is the one that it's kind of our go-to place.
Hey Tracy, if I may, I just wanted to just touch a little bit more on that down payment assistance and layering of the down payment assistance. Lenders are going to allow you to lend up to for a conventional product or a portfolio product. And let me explain the difference. So you have a conventional product like a Home Ready or Home Possible, which is 3% down, but they'll allow your combined loan to value to go to 105%. So what that means is you've got your first mortgage, your second mortgage, and your third mortgage. If your house is worth if you buy a house for $250,000, but you've got liens on your property, let's just say for $300,000, that's gonna give you your combined loan to value. So we have to be careful on how many layering of down payment assistance, even though it's good. But it can also hinder your equity position on a short term. One of the things that Linda also said, that if we're going to layer multiple, let's make sure as lenders and as folks in the industry that we can find the down payment assistance programs that are going to be forgiven in a 5-year period. Because there are a lot of down payment assistance programs that are termed, so 30 years. So example, Minnesota Housing is one of the best programs for second mortgages in the state, you know. So you can get up to, depending on your family size, you can get up to $18,000. So okay, and that's for 30 years. Right? So then let's say you get another down payment assistance, like through NeighborWorks, they have multiple down payment assistance programs like Community Keys. That term could be 30 years. So what does that do with your equity position? So if you have more liens secured against the property than what the house is worth, your equity position in the short term, you're really not going to have any until you start building equity. So the good thing is, the best thing we need to do as professionals in this industry is find you one down payment assistant that is 30 years, and then hopefully we can find you additional ones that are forgiven in 5 years. So this is why it's really important to sit with someone in the banking business or the lending business that will do a consultation. I ain't trying to give a selfish plug, but that's what I do. But it's good to do that so you are aware of your equity position from a short-term perspective and then your long-term perspective.
How much money do I need to have a down payment?
Well, I'm gonna throw that back out to the audience. How much do you think you need to have to purchase a home? Just throw some 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%.
There you go. What's your answer? 0%?
And then he said 20%.
20%, yeah. Those, I mean,
or more.
Or more. So but for a first-time home buyer, believe it or not, you can get into a home. Now, one thing, you are going to have some skin in the game. You're going to put some money down, and it's not going to be zero. Yeah. So most programs want you to have $1,000 of your own funds into the transaction. And that basically covers your earnest money. But that being said, you will have out-of-pocket expenses too, right? So you have your earnest money, you're going to have a home inspection, and then a lot of lenders charge for the appraisal up front. So as an individual, you should have, remember what we talked about, unnecessary and necessary, you should have at least $2,000 of your own funds when you get started, and maybe having at least 30 to 60-day reserves based on the payment that you are going to have, whether that payment is $1,700, 17 times 2, that's $3,400. You should have at least $3,400 in your savings account or some kind of a retirement account, IRA, 401k. That's another topic we can get into. But again, what it does, it gives strength.
So, when you were talking, Trent, I was thinking about, it's discipline. Mm-hmm. And you have to learn to discipline yourselves even before you start looking for a home. I mean, that's important. You need to establish those healthy habits, right? It goes back to, kind of the needs and the wants, right? And it's prioritizing. Purchasing a home needs to be something that you really want to do and that's important to you, and that requires some sacrifice. You got to make some changes, right? And if you haven't saved or thought about that, you need to do that, because when you get into a home, I'll just give you, something's going to happen. I mean, you've heard of those stories. I got into the home and bought the home and the hot water heater went out. That's another thing of warranties. Make sure you're dealing with the home warranty. That's very important. If you're working with an agent, let them know you build in the home warranty in the contract, get the seller to pay for that. But it's really truly disciplining yourselves and learning to save and put money aside and save for rainy days. So when you do make that purchase for a home, it's not that, okay, I can't manage it, I can't handle it, and that's very important.
And let's talk a little bit about, because I know sometimes we can have an interest rate that's going to get us into this, could be our dream home. But the question is, can we afford that dream home? What is when you consider yourself home broke? So now you're barely making your mortgage payment because you made enough money to get that house, but it really wasn't a house you should have got. What's that percentage, Trent? What should we not do to ourselves?
Right. It's a great question, and it goes to the, and you guys work with me on this one. I call it the house of substance and the hollow house. The house of substance is the house you can afford. That's the house you can maintain. That's the house that you can save, you can put money away. You can, if you go on vacation, you can still go on vacation. You might not have all the bells and whistles. You know, you might not have the granite countertops. You might not have the stainless steel refrigerator. You might not have all those luxury type of things, but guess what you got? You got the house. Now you got the hollow house. You got all the bells and whistles. The guy's got the man cave. The lady's got, her little lights, and and we get into this. I just have to have it. It's this is what I want. I gotta have it. But now you got a $2,000 mortgage payment. That and remember, we qualify you from a gross perspective, but you pay your bills from your net.
Right.
Right. So now you got all the bells and whistles, but it's empty. Because you can't do anything. You got this high mortgage payment. You can't save nothing. You can't do anything. You can't go on vacation. Your man says, "Hey, baby, I'm going to happy hour." Oh, hell no, you ain't. How you figure you get to go to happy hour? Where you getting extra money at? So what it does when you buy that hollow house, it's empty. It echoes. It might not echo from a physical perspective, but it echoes from an overall perspective.
You can't afford it.
Because you can't afford it. So don't get, and God bless real estate agents like Kim. Because she's going to put you in the house you can afford. She's going to communicate with the lender that this is what this individual can qualify for. Too many times we get baited into buying the hollow house. I'm a firm believer, loan officers are not salespeople, despite what people may think. A loan officer is an informational person that gives wonderful advice to put people in the homes they can afford, not to sell them on something they can't afford. Because when you're dealing with a loan officer or a real estate agent, if the loan officer tells you you qualify for 175, that's what you qualify for. And then if that agent comes back and says, well, you know what, I can't find anything for 175. Can you push the numbers and get me to 225? The numbers don't lie, my friends. Remember I talked about debt to income ratios? If your debt to income, if your total housing ratio on that back end is 45%, that's probably, you're hitting the Mendoza line. But now when we get to 50%, you're over the Mendoza line, and that's on gross. So now if you take that same number, you make it into net, basically 90%, 80 to 90% of your net take home is going towards your mortgage payment. How you gonna pay your car note? How you gonna buy groceries? How you gonna put your kids in karate class or extracurricular activities? Basketball, you got kids, AAU is expensive. 80 to 90% of your net is going towards your mortgage payment because you want to live in a bigger or better house, so you want to live in that hollow house, but basically you're setting yourselves backwards instead of moving yourself forward, so buy the house of substance.
All right.
And I would just say as an agent, and piggyback on what Trent said, as an agent, if you qualify, if I have a client that goes to a mortgage company and says, oh, you qualify for, you know, $250, I'm just making up numbers, I would say, okay, what are you going to buy? I never ever hit the max and what they qualify for. We're never going to look for a house because really, I want you to be able to enjoy life, right? And not be living and staying tied to your home. Can't go nowhere eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and macaroni and cheese, right, in the box, right? I want people to live and enjoy life, and so I'll never go to the maximum loan amount that a mortgage company says that they qualify for. It's just not good. To me, it's setting them up to fail, right? So I think that's important.
And we want a house that we can live in and we can enjoy.
Yes.
We only can enjoy it if we have some money to do some extra things with it.
Right.
I'm going to have to end this portion of our day, unfortunately, because I'm sure there's a lot more questions that you'll be in the room to answer. But I want to make sure that people have time to still visit some of the vendors and get some more knowledge on their head. So let's thank Kim, Trent, and Linda for their time this afternoon. Thank you so much. And we will have our next raffle here in just a few minutes.
Sister Spokesman.